Hello, everyone, and welcome to our post-race coverage of the 64th running of the Daytona 500. I'm Cubby Lambert from the Podium Finish, and with me, Ben Snyder, Adam Limmeries, Jess Samniega, and Joshua Birch. A special thank you to our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deschelle, and Robin, for investing in Grid Network, and also a special thank you to Ed, Amber, and Zachary for buying us a coffee. We really appreciate you guys' wonderful support. And now, getting into the Daytona 500 itself, a rookie. Austin Cindric, in a nail-biting finish, held off the pack to win the 64th running of the Daytona 500. And during our pre-race show, we talked about the rookies, and one ended up taking home the Great American Race. And starting with you, Ben, how important is this crown jewel win for Austin Cindric's young career?
It's massive. It's absolutely huge. And this has to feel so good for a driver like Austin Cindric. And I think it's easy to forget with how strong he's been in the Xfinity Series the last couple of years, how strong he looked at times in the couple of Cup Series races he did last season. It wasn't that long ago that we were looking at Austin Cindric as somebody in the Xfinity Series who clearly had a lot of talent, but didn't necessarily know how to convert that into a full run over the race. He would oftentimes spin out and crash. I think he even got the nickname Austin Spindrick from a couple of people on social media. And we didn't really know if he was going to have what it took to get to the Cup Series and get to this top level and be competitive. And he's proven all the doubters wrong. People had said he's only there Penske because of his father, Tim Cindric. Absolutely wrong. Austin Cindric is a future star. He proved it today. I think he's going to prove it throughout the rest of the season. He's got a very strong ride now with Penske. And I think with this win now, you could almost say, unless we get a win from Harrison Burton or Todd Gilliland before the playoffs, he might already have Rookie of the Year sealed up because he's in the playoffs and on virtue of his win, and that's all it takes now. So it's already a successful year for Austin Cindric in that regard, I guess. But in all seriousness, my congratulations to him, and absolutely massive to do it at such a young age at this point in his career. No bigger stage to get your first win. Well-deserved win today for Austin Cindric.
Happy birthday, Roger Penske. How about the rookie Austin Cindric giving the captain a birthday present? That's pretty cool. But overall, congratulations to Austin Cindric and the entire number 2 discount tire Ford team for Penske Racing. That was incredible. He was up there all day long, battling out with his teammate Ryan Blaney. We saw Bubba Wallace up there all day long. We saw Ricky Stenhouse Jr., one of the few Chevys up there all day long, battling with those Fords. But Austin Cindric, to me, don't be surprised if he wins another race this year. He's in a really good car, and pretty sorry. Brad Keselowski was in this car for a long time. I wonder what Brad is saying right now. He had opportunity after opportunity to win the Daytona 500, driving this number 2, and now it's a rookie winning the Great American Race. Congratulations to Austin Cindric and the entire number 2 discount tire Penske Racing Ford Mustang team.
Yeah, big congratulations to Austin Cindric and that team on such a big win. This is huge for Penske because it's just crazy to think. In the entire history of Penske in the number 2, which has had Rusty Wallace, Kurt Busch, from Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, who brought the championship to Penske in the number 2 Blue Deuce. They have never won the Daytona 500. The 12 car won the Daytona 500 with Ryan Newman. The 22 car won the Daytona 500 with Joey Logano. And now the 2 car has gotten the Daytona 500 as well. For a rookie to do this full-time compared to Trevor Bank, who was part-time, he's in the playoffs already. I feel this is a big change in what it could be for his racing career, because now he's one of the few rookies to win the Daytona 500. He could go out there, focus on just learning, winning races. I just think this is huge for him. Comment from the chat room: Seth Evans, Rusty Wallace, Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski all drove to number 2. None of them won the Daytona 500. Austin Cindric was in his first try. Racing, how funny is old sport. So definitely, it's just something, of course, we're going to be following. Of course, we will be following post-race inspections just in case something changes. But definitely, for Austin Cindric, this is a huge night to get your win and your first date, well, actually second Daytona 500 crash. He was in the 33 last year when he got crashed. Huge for Austin Cindric.
It's a bit weird that we're calling him a rookie, to be fair, after he did a couple of races before. But this is his first full season, and what a fantastic race from calling it as well. He was up there all day. It was fantastic. He was battling with Brad Keselowski all throughout the first stage and then in the final stage as well. He kept his nose clean throughout the cautions that we had, 7 of them in the end as well. And he is a very, very deserving winner. I was speaking with the guys at USRN and said that many people in America don't like him. They think he's only there because of his father, a bit like how Lance Stroll is viewed over here in the European racing scene, that he's only racing Formula 1 because of Lawrence Stroll. Hopefully this fantastic race has put to bed all of those things, because that was a masterclass performance. And to win the 500 as a rookie, unbelievable. It's akin to what Alexander Rossi did in IndyCar at the 100th running of the Indy 500. Just a fantastic race. And actually, that's something else you can point out. From the 2 races I've called of the 500s for the first time, the first ever Indy 500 I called was the 100th running. A rookie won that with Chewbacca. No, it's Alexander Rossi. And then, of course, here today, Austin Cindric has won the first Daytona 500 I've called. So big thumbs up there for rookies winning the first time I call. So I need to call another series where we can have a rookie winner. Any suggestions, guys?
No suggestions from my end, but it's really like looking at Austin Cindric's career path so far. It's been truly remarkable. I remember when he was just a high school kid who went on a plane and flew to Australia to run the Bathurst 12-hour endurance race in a GT car, and since then his career has really taken off. He did a little rallycross racing. He raced in GT World Challenge America, and it really looked like he was setting himself up to be a factory prototype or GT driver in sports car racing. But he changed the trajectory of his career and decided to try out stock car racing, as you mentioned. Austin made a few mistakes early on when he was first learning stock cars, and he got that nickname Austin Cindric. And it got so bad at some point where fans on Twitter were even saying that, Austin, we know you're a really good road racer. Maybe you should just go and focus on sports cars so you can actually have a great career. And I bet all of those people who said that about Austin Cindric then would take all of that back now, because he's really developed into quite an all-around race car driver. And Tony DeZino said on Twitter that is funny how the only NASCAR Cup driver who ran the Rolex 24 ended up winning the Daytona 500, and looking at his teammate Ryan Blaney, who was close once again to winning the Daytona 500. A really interesting stat that I saw when Ryan Newman won the Daytona 500 in 2008, it took Roger Penske 7 years to win again in 2015 with Joey Logano, and 7 more years go by. 2022, Austin Cindric wins. So I guess Ryan Blaney's gonna have to hope that he wins the 2029 Daytona 500. Just add a little 7 more years. And today is a big day for the captain, Roger Penske, his 85th birthday, and he gets to celebrate with the Daytona 500 victory, compared to going home last year on Valentine's Day without flowers and chocolate when all the Penske cars crashed on the final lap. And today, Blaney finished 4th, Logano 21st after being involved in a crash. And Adam, I'll start with you this next question. With Cendrick now in the playoffs, can we count on all 3 Penske cars making the playoffs?
Yeah, I will say yes. Austin Cindric strong. Ryan Blaney, who I believe Josh picked to win the Daytona 500 today. He was strong. He was strong all day long, and he was pushing Austin Cindric, and Joe Logano, he was good too. So I'm gonna say yes, we will see all 3 Penske cars make the playoffs.
Josh, if you want to go, I guess we.
I'm confused on where we're going. I think I'm reading an old script. But in terms of what we've got, we got 3 things right. 1, a Ford would win. 2, a Penske would be in the top 3. And my personal favorite as well is that I was asked as well who would be the best rookie. I got Austin Cindric. I said it was Austin Cindric. So that was at least half a point maybe for pick a winner. I'm a bit disappointed I didn't get Ryan Blaney, but I was so close as they came across the line. Going through as well, I think we're definitely going to see the Penskes get through towards the end of the season. They look very fast and they were controlling the race a lot today. The driver I feel sorry for, Brad Keselowski's left the Penske team and he was pushing the number 2 to the victory throughout the entire race. He must be kicking himself right now in his motorhome.
Yeah, must be kicking himself. And Austin Cindric, he didn't make a flashy move to win that race. Just a part of Ford's strategy, working together in and up towards the front after pit stops, pushed by teammate Ryan Blaney most of the race to the finish. Cindric able to hold off Blaney, then Bubba Wallace to win it at the line. And I really didn't think Austin Cindric raced like a young, inexperienced Cup driver today. He really drove like a veteran all day long. And now that Cindric's in the playoffs, many expected it for him to get that first win on a road course, since he's such a good road course racing driver. So, Ben, does winning the Daytona 500 change his approach for the rest of the season?
Well, 1 year ago, I made my debut on the Grid Network on our Daytona 500 post-race show here, and I think we asked the very same question about Michael McDowell, and I've got the exact same answer. Absolutely. It changes how you approach the rest of the year, because now you know that you almost know that you're in the playoffs. I suppose it's still possible we could get 17 winners in 26 races. We thought we might get it last year with a new winner every race, and then Kyle Larson went and dominated the second half of the season. But, if you're Austin Cindric, this is a big relief off of your shoulders now, because now you don't have to worry about pointing your way in or running to win races later on in the year. You know you're in the playoffs, and you can use really the next 25 races as a test session if you really want to. I know he's going to be going for more wins and more playoff points and everything, but you've got nothing to lose. And while you've got nothing to lose, you can also use it to learn for tracks that you're going to be coming back to in the playoffs. At NASCAR races it twice a year. Try to get setups right, try to figure out what's going to be best when it comes time for the playoffs, because you don't have to worry about making the playoffs. You're already in with the win you're in system. So for Cindric, this is absolutely massive. And, I said last year for a team like McDowell in particular, for front row, is even more massive, because, a smaller team like that is going to get an opportunity to, particularly for them, I think using those races kind of as a mini test session is particularly valuable. I don't think Penske necessarily need to do that because they're one of the top teams in the Cup Series. But either way, no matter who you are, if you're a big team, small team, rookie, veteran, it's a huge relief off your shoulders. And I think it absolutely changes how you approach pretty much every race until we get time for the playoffs to close the year out.
I fully agree with you, Ben. As I mentioned, this changes the trajectory of his career. For this season, especially as a rookie, just go out there, lock those laps. If you could put yourself in for a win, great, but gain the experience. And here's the big thing. We know he's talented in the road courses. That's definitely an area where I think he could exceed. I see comment in the chat room, Amber, will Cindric win more races? And she commented, I think he will win in the road courses. I have to agree with that. I think he could be a contender in those road course races. And the big thing I see as well, he could just be taking the time, learning everything, especially when we get to the tracks like Kansas, like Phoenix, which is next race weekend, where they're going to be in the playoffs and the regular season. Just try to get as much experience as you can in the car, and that way when you come here for the playoffs, you have a really good, solid setup, great experience, and could be a contender.
Yeah, and I don't really have too much to add to what you and Ben said, Joe, but I do think that this is going to allow Austin Cindric to do a lot of learning throughout the season, because he this is his first full season in the NASCAR Cup Series. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of growing pains for him. So instead of the pressure of trying to make the playoffs as a rookie and one of the best cars in the garage, Cendrick can rest easy now and just focus on improving his craft and just getting accustomed to racing in the NASCAR Cup Series.
Getting the hang of the Cup Series car, and of course, everybody's getting the hang of this brand new Cup Series car, where overall, saw some minor hiccups here and there. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show, and I encourage everyone tuning in, subscribe, like, and comment in the chat room. We'd love to answer your questions, share your opinions right here on the air. We got to talk about Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, again, second place in the Daytona 500. He had a fast car, but he did sustain some damage on the right front with number 47 hit him while crashing out. Still, he followed Blaney, Austin Cindric, stayed in that inside lane, and at the end, as they were fanning out, he stayed in that inside lane, and like you said, he had the momentum. If this was Talladega, he would have easily had the win. But the big thing, second place in the points, and last time he was second place in the points, of course, was when he finished second in the Daytona 500, and that was when he was with Richard Petty. Now he's with 2311 Racing. Do you think they could carry the positive momentum next race weekend?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've lost out on the biggest race in NASCAR by 0.036 of a second. I mean, as they crossed the line, I was fairly sure Bubba Wallace had won the race. But then we noticed as well the caution was called, so it just went back. Cindric got it across the line anyway, but what a beautiful race it was at the front there. Bubba Wallace was at one point, I think just at the start of just after the red flag and the restart, I was thinking to myself, didn't say it on air though, because I didn't want to jinx it. I thought, oh my God, Bubba Wallace could actually win this race. And it came so close. He had that damage though, and I think it did cost him as well. He lost a lot of aero, lost a lot of drag on the front end of the car. Did he have suspension damage? That's something we're still trying to work out. But certainly, if that contact hadn't happened on the big one on the start-finish straight, he would have been in there, and I'm sure he would have won the race. That is a major disappointment. So they're going to drag this momentum that they finished second. They're going to drag it through into Fontana next weekend, and I think we'll see some really strong performances from there. And I think also the next super speedway we're at is Talladega. That could be a good one for Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, Bubba Wallace is going to be trying to go back-to-back at Talladega Super Speedway, and I think it's certainly possible they can carry this positive momentum into next week. And I know after the race, Bubba Wallace was very dejected, finishing second, as Chip Ganassi would say, close but no cigar. Once again, another second-place finish in the Great American Race. But if the start-finish was just a little bit further down the track like it is at Talladega, Bubba Wallace would have certainly had that win because he had a bunch of momentum coming. And I saw some of the comments that Bubba was saying on the radio with him and his team, and it seemed like the morale is really high in the 2311 camp. I know him and his new crew chief who started on later on last season, Booty Barker, they're really getting along well. It really seems like they've developed some pretty strong chemistry inside that organization. Booty was really giving Bubba a lot of compliments, telling him you're doing this right, like good job and all of that. And Bubba Wallace is the type of driver who gets very dejected easily when something doesn't go his way. So I think having Booty Barker having Booty Barker as crew chief, continuing on the success they found towards the end of last season, I think that's going to be a big help. And Booty is the type of crew chief who is a motivator. So I think if Booty can continue to motivate Bubba to be the best driver that he can be, 2311 Racing can really grow a lot compared to last season and do some excellent things in 2022. And Amber has a question in the chat room to say, will not racing at Auto Club Speedway in 2 years with a new car be a level playing field? Well, Amber, I'm not necessarily sure how to answer that one, but I think it's certainly going to be interesting to watch these next gen cars, Gen 7 cars, go over all the bumps at Fontana. Yeah, and since the future of Fontana is really up in the air, we don't know what they're going to do with it. Originally, they were planning to tear it down and convert it into a short track with the Martinsville straightaways and the Bristol high banks. Yeah, and right now it seems like they're reconsidering it. So we don't really know what we could see at that track moving forward. Is it going to remain a super speedway, a bumpy super speedway with an abrasive surface, or are we going to see another short track added to the schedule?
It's going to be really interesting to see how that race turns out. I haven't considered that. 2 years since we've been to Auto Club. We got a totally brand new car. Of course, he tested it for the 1.5 mile ovals, the short tracks, and the super speedways we had to test. But a track like Auto Club, Michigan, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And especially if Bubba Wallace can continue that momentum. The Toyotas know how to win there. Kyle Busch, of course, won there before. I don't see why the Toyotas will not be competitive over there. And of course, the Toyotas, they were overshadowed by the Fords. And for some of the Fords, like Stewart-Haas Racing, they have to be really happy with today. Aric Almirola, his last Daytona 500 for him, maybe something part-time, but for sure as a full-time driver. 5th place, Chase Briscoe. 3rd place in Stewart-Haas Racing 4. So that's 2 of them in the top 5. Michael McDowell, David Reagan, they were both in that last lap crash, but they finished in the top 10, and only one Chevrolet in the top 10. Starting with you, Kobe. Can this be a big confidence booster for Stewart-Haas Racing, especially after last year?
Oh, yes. I definitely think it could be a massive confidence booster for SHR, considering the season they had last year. And looking at their performance today, 3 of their 4 ran extremely well. You see Chase Briscoe, Aric Almirola, they got the result to show for it. Kevin Harvick was running well until he was taken out in the last race crash. And Cole Custer, he just, like, a bunch of things is going wrong with that team today. But I think overall that this is good for Stewart-Haas Racing as we head into the West Coast swing. We'll see if they can build on this. But I think Fontana, not a non-super speed, drafting type track. I think that's going to be the first real test for this organization to see have they truly improved from the woes that they had last season.
Yeah, and I'll go out on a limb and I'll say this. Last year, Kevin Harvick did not win a race. That changes this year. So keep that in mind for your pick winner all season long. And Aric Almirola, finishing 5th today. I'm really happy for him. You mentioned, this is his last Daytona 500 as a full-time driver. He was up there all day long as well. You mentioned Chase Briscoe driving for Tony Stewart. Don't be surprised if you see Chase Briscoe. Last year he won on the IMS road course. Don't be surprised if he doesn't. Don't be surprised if he wins this year, because I think Chase Briscoe will win this year. I think Kevin Harvick will win this year. So this gives Stewart-Haas Racing a lot of momentum going forward as we head to Fontana next weekend and then Phoenix International Raceway in Arizona after that.
I think when it comes to Phoenix, it's going to be really interesting how the Fords all do. And with Stewart-Haas Racing, that's one of Kevin Harvick's favorite tracks. He did pretty okay last year there. I think that could be just a good start where you have several of your drivers in the top 16 in points and just try to build up for something bigger. Then Auto Club, the high speeds there, I think will be a really big benefit, especially with what we saw today with qualifying and everything. I think it's going to be really interesting. And the racing action we saw today, those manufacturers, they really dictated the battle. We saw the Fords, Keselowski up front leading the opening laps. Toyota making a charge on the inside lane. However, for the majority of times it was Ford up front. We did see for quite a long time, the majority of the race, Eric Jones was in the top 10, but so often surrounded by all the Fords. Kyle Larson made an impressive effort at the end of stage 2, but the Fords ganging up on him, just like what we predicted on the pre-race show. This was all Ford dominating. Just so happened the end of each stage, something occurred in which Martin Truex won the 2 stages. Were you surprised that the Toyotas and Chevrolets were not able to group up and mount a challenge for the majority of the race?
Well, there was one point, I think, where we saw all 6 Toyotas running the top 6 spots in the first stage, so they did get that done for them, but then a couple of them fell out with the accidents and everything, so we talked about it on the pre-race show with their lack of strength in numbers, and when that was only further reduced, I mean, Bubba Wallace and Kyle Busch were working pretty well together towards the end there, but not much of a surprise that it was a bigger struggle for them to work together up front than it would be for whatever it was, 16 or 18 Fords or Chevrolets in the field. Certainly more surprised by Chevy. And I know we talked about them all week with their speed in qualifying, particularly the Hendrick cars. But, you had Trackhouse up there as well. Colleagues showed some pretty decent speed in qualifying, as well as a couple others. I think when you look at the Chevrolets, it's certainly a pretty big surprise that they couldn't work together in the draft better than they did, because they have the strength of numbers, and we knew that the cars had the single run speed. So if you're Chevy, I think it's kind of back to the drawing board at this point. We've got 3 more super speedways to go this year. Amber's asking, is Ford the favorite for the year or just the super speedways? I would say certainly the favorite when we go back to Talladega and Daytona. It's a brand new car. I think the true test is going to be Fontana. And then once we get a few races into the year, we'll know for sure kind of who has the upper hand everywhere else. But certainly for the 3 super speedway races we have left this year, you got to think Ford's got the upper hand over Toyota and Chevy at this point.
Completely agree with you. Ford seemed unbeatable today. I mean, at one point we had 11 of the top 12 were all Fords, and only one of those was Chevrolet. We did have a chance. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was a Chevrolet driver leading the race and nearly did win until he got caught up in that wreck late on. He ended the race, 7 laps down? Looking at my timing screen. Yep, 7 laps down. Somehow, Jacques Villeneuve in the Ford as well in the 22 was a separate note, just noticed, did finish the race in 22nd. So that's a surprise. More on him later. I was very surprised that the Chevys couldn't seem to get together throughout the race. They made a challenge late on. I thought, okay, this is looking good. Dylan was up there quite a lot as well. He was fighting in the top 5. But in all honesty, it was the Toyotas for me who were the big surprises of the day. They led the race, I think, for a total of 36 laps. I'm thinking that correctly. I'm looking at the screen. Yeah, I think so. Out of the total of the 200. That's a lot. But still, Ford dominated today so much across everybody. Brad Keselowski over there in the Ford, he led 67 laps. And the race winner, Austin Cindric, in the Ford as well, won with 21 laps under the belt. So that's a huge margin. So Ford's definitely big thumbs up for the super speedways. As Ben said as well, wait to see what it's like on more short track races, the road courses as well. And I think Fontana next weekend is earlier on. I think Adam and Kobe mentioned as well with the bumps. It's going to be quite interesting to see what that's going to be like.
Very interesting to see. And I think I'm making an announcement with you about the Fords. They were just looking really strong. I see a couple comments in the chat room. One from Zachary, do you think the 2 will pass post-race inspection? Still no word. Definitely I know if we get word about post-race inspection, we will mention it right here once those results become official. So
that's of course because when he did the donuts, he's flattened the rear tires and they had to come out and put new tires on. So when it's gone for the weighing, it's on different tires than what it ended the race on. So I know that was a slight worry that we talked about in commentary, but it looks like it should be okay.
Well, and I responded to Zach in the chat myself, actually, but I seem to recall, I think last year, obviously the 500 ended very late. I think the call for McDowell came in close to 4 a.m. So, sometimes Daytona Tech, I think, takes a little bit longer because, you want to make sure everything's in order. But I think Cindric, the times we've seen drivers fail tech have been very few and far between since the new rules came in. I think the 2019 season where you expected anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours after the race. In most circumstances, I'd say odds are pretty good. Cindric will be fine.
So the tires won't have an issue with it then because they had to change them to get into victory lane. That should all be good then.
No, shouldn't.
Yeah. I think you do a burnout or anything like that. I think they always take damage into consideration here. I've never been back there to work tech. I'm just speaking, from the limited knowledge I have, but they'll factor that in if that would make a difference. So I think they should be fine there.
And we got to remember too, earlier this week, NASCAR confiscated tires from Penske and Roush Fenway's races. They're at the R&D Center. We haven't heard anything. That could be something if something is, but we'll definitely encourage everyone tune into Grid Network, subscribe, because Wednesday, Adam and Kobe will be reporting, especially if there is any changes.
We got the encore tomorrow, haven't we? Is there an encore? You're not doing it?
No.
Tried the encore tomorrow. So.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, with Brandon and Ben. So to tune in at 8 o'clock, as they wrap up Daytona.
Yeah, really looking forward to watching Grit Live on Quartermile. Brandon and Ben going to do an excellent job. I know, and one of the biggest talking points early in the race happened coming to the end of stage one when Brad Keselowski was pushing Harrison Burton hard exit in turn two. Burton shot down, hit William Byron, Kyle Busch, and then the number 21 Ford Mustang lifted and went in the air. 8 cars were involved in the crash, but the big concern was about Harrison Burton. And luckily, Harrison Burton was okay, but the car lifted, got airborne when it got sideways after scrubbing off speed. Ben, starting with you, how concerning was it to see Harrison Burton take off fairly easily? And is this something NASCAR needs to take a look at before we get to Talladega, or was this incident just the nature of super speedway racing?
It's probably both. Airborne crashes are hardly a new thing in NASCAR. We've seen it with every generation of car. Kobe, since you and I started following from a Gen 4 to the car tomorrow / Gen 5 to the Gen 6, Gen 5 without the wing, with the wing, every car that we've certainly been a part of in our time as race fans and following the sport has had airborne crashes. So, it would have been silly to think that this wouldn't have happened occasionally with the next gen car, and of course it happens most often in super speedway races. So I think anytime a car gets backwards, even if the roof flaps deploy, if the air gets under it the right way, there's not too much you can do about that. Now NASCAR has pushed very hard for safety, and I know I've been critical a lot of times of modern day NASCAR and changes that they've made, but the safety aspects have been absolutely spot on. We can't give NASCAR enough credit. We saw it in the Xfinity race with Myatt Snider last night. The testament to the safety of these race cars is absolutely incredible. I think you can never, that being said, you can never stop pushing to be too safe, and you can never stop looking for improvements that can be made. I think the catch fencing could use a little bit of work. It certainly does its job keeping cars on the track, but it kind of acts as a cheese grater when the cars go into it. And we saw that with Snyder's damage last night. Fortunately, Harrison Burton wasn't anywhere near the catch fence, so he didn't have to worry about that. But can they look at ways to try to keep the cars on the ground? Absolutely. But when you're racing at these speeds at tracks like this, I think in a lot of ways the laws of physics can sometimes limit what you do. So it is a concern, and I'm sure NASCAR is going to go back to R&D and take a look at that in ways that they can limit it. But at the same time, sometimes there's nothing you can do. That's just Daytona.
Just Daytona. I think you bring up a good point. Just the way it goes, and then the air gets underneath and takes off. Of course, NASCAR, when they're making these vehicles, there's changes. They're looking at testing and all that. And a lot of times they look at, okay, when the car is backwards, how does the air react? The one thing I noticed with Harrison Burton, it wasn't just one hit. He had two, and I believe a third hit. And was that third hit, it looked like that's when his car started getting airborne. So it's something where we've seen a couple times where a car gets hit, it's facing backwards, get hit again, and that's when it goes airborne because you have that momentum pushing it backwards, accelerating it. I think this is something where this is, I believe, a product of just the super speedway racing. NASCAR taking a look at it, I think that's great. I don't think it's such a huge concern right now, just because the way that crash looked, you saw the car get airborne, but the big thing when it's airborne and it's tumbling is dispersing the energy. It is the hard hits, the sudden stops, like Byron's hitting the wall. Thankfully, that's not a concrete wall. We all remember McClure's horrific crash at Talladega when he went in the inside wall at a much harder speed. So overall, I feel with this car, I'm not too concerned. We saw when Tyler Reddick got backwards, back tires came up a little bit, but as soon as the roof flaps came open, it settled back down, and we saw some big hits. Not exactly concerned about it. I just think it was just a nature of the super speedway racing at Daytona and Talladega.
Yeah, definitely a nature of the super speedway racing at Daytona and just physics in general. No matter what NASCAR does with these cars, they're always gonna at some point go up in the air and go airborne. There's like really nothing NASCAR can do there. I was just a little bit concerned about Harrison Burton because he had scrubbed off quite a bit of speed and still lifted after that. And I'm pretty sure I said this on Twitter during the race. I said I was pretty sure NASCAR is definitely going to probably take this back to the R&D center and analyze it and see what they can do to make sure that a car doesn't lift so easily like this ever again. And these type of wrecks, they're common on these type of racetracks. So we're definitely going to see this type of accident again in the future, maybe later this year when we return to Daytona or the two races at Talladega. And now shifting gears to last year's Cup Series champion Kyle Larson, he retired late in the race. He gave Kevin Harvick a big shot. Harvick got sideways into Noah Gragson, causing a multi-car wreck in the tri-oval. He took out Larson and 7 cars in this one. And Kyle Larson made one run to the front towards the end, but he was really outnumbered. And after another disappointing race at this style of track, will Kyle Larson ever find luck of any kind to win on a super speedway?
That's the question. I mean, he got so close, 11 laps to go, and then got punted round and caused the red flag. He was kind of, in the commentary I was doing as well, he was kind of the outside shot, even though he started on pole position. It was a weird atmosphere. No one actually took him as a serious contender, like we did here earlier on in the broadcast. In the pre-race show, we said, oh, he could actually do it. So it's disappointing, and I think there's more super speedways coming on this year as well, as we know. And I think he's got a shot at winning a couple. But for a Daytona 500, he'll have to wait another year, but this is going to grate on him now because he is his best shot gone again. Unbelievable. But yes, I think he can do it.
And who picked Kyle Larson to win the Daytona 500? Out of everybody. Me.
And that's what you get for going with him.
Yes, Josh. Yeah, I was the only one to pick a Chevrolet driver against all my other colleagues who picked Fords. Did I learn my lesson? Yes. So I can see that. Yeah.
I can feel the Italian job.
I can feel the Speedway. That's a tough question. Daytona and Talladega. They're like games of checkers or chess. You have to be in the right position at the right time, make the right move to win. So I'm going to say yes, but I think it'll take time.
That's right, Adam. My pick ended up upside down, so it's all good there.
Oh, that's right. You picked Harrison Burton. I forgot it. That's right. I forgot about that. You picked Harrison Burton then. Well,
I was 0.130 away from getting points on the board.
Yes, Josh. I know.
If I see Brad Keselowski any point, I might just have to punch him because he knocked my pick a winner, and he would have done it as well. He was on the outside. He had the toe, but then he would have crossed that line.
Yeah. You picked Ryan Blaney, didn't you, Josh? And you came close.
Yeah, and I was actually kicking myself on the last lap, thinking he might do it. He's going to do it. I've got a video of that last lap, and I was literally like,
no.
But yeah, that's what you get for picking Kyle Larson as a pick a winner.
It was either going to be Kyle Larson or Bubba Wallace. My head said Kyle Larson, my heart said Bubba Wallace. I should have went with my heart over my head.
Oh well, so sometimes these things happen. I hope that you learn your lesson for next time, Adam.
Yes, I did, Kobe. Yes, I did.
And we have a comment in the chat room from Amber saying, "Will anything carry on to Atlanta?" Oh, and that's the thing we haven't really talked about yet. Saying we have 3 more super speedway races left. I guess if you include both Atlanta races, we really have 5 more super speedway races since since the degree of banking at Atlanta is now 28 degrees in the corners and a much narrower racing surface. And they're also going to be using this exact same package at Atlanta. So we don't really know what type of racing we're going to see. We're going to see pack racing. Have no idea. I'm not really sure what Atlanta is going to look like yet, Amber. I'll just say that Atlanta is really going to be the first great unknown to this 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season because we have no idea what to expect there. But I'm certain that a lot of people are going to be paying close attention to Atlanta since it got, I guess, what they're going to call a facelift upgrade. I don't know about that, but a brand new era for Atlanta Motor Speedway. And looking at a driver who swept both stages today, that was MTJ, Martin Truex Jr. And interestingly enough, Martin Truex Jr. became the 3rd driver to sweep both stages this weekend. John Hunter Nemechek did on Friday night in the Truck Series, and yesterday Daniel Hemrick in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. But both of them got caught up in wrecks and out of contention for the win. And the same thing happened today with Martin Truex Jr., but he ended up finishing 13th. Truex finished 2nd at Phoenix last year to Larson in the championship. Do you think he's one of the early favorites to get a win early on in the season?
Yeah, for sure. Truex is obviously a threat to win pretty much everywhere. I think he could be a threat to win the championship again this season. I think like we've been talking about all weekend here, we've got a brand new car, so it's a little bit hard to predict who we're going to see up front here. I think we need to get a few races in before we start looking at who the contenders versus the pretenders are. But Martin Truex Jr.'s name certainly has to be in that conversation because of the success that he's had in recent years with Furniture Row and now with Joe Gibbs. Looked very strong again today, so I certainly wouldn't count him out to get a win early on this year.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Ben. To me, Martin Truex Jr., he will win this year. And I'll go out on a limb and I'll say Martin Truex Jr. And I want everybody to remember this. I think Martin Truex Jr. will be one of the championship 4 when we get to Phoenix later on in the year. Always strong, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. So I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say Martin Truex Jr. is one of the championship 4 at Phoenix.
Making early predictions there. I see Adam Martin Truex
Yes,
Jr.
I am. Yes, I am. We'll see if I'm right this time.
Yeah, we'll see if you're right, and you probably will be because that's such a strong race team, and the tracks we have early on the schedule certainly going to favor MTJ. So I won't be surprised if he's a contender for the championship once again. And before we move on to the next section with Joe, I want to point out one of my favorite moments during the pre-race show today was that Tom Rinaldi segment with Martin Truex Jr. and Sherry Pollux talking about their relationship and all of the challenges that they've faced in life. And I just want to say that was a really powerful segment from Fox. I know we like to give Fox a lot of I guess trouble complaints and stuff, but I give them a high amount of credit for doing that segment. It was amazing, and Amber said it made you cry. I'm sure a lot of people felt the exact same way. It was certainly quite an emotional piece, and I want to say that Sherry Pollins is such a strong person, and I wish I just had an ounce of the strength that she has because she's doing things that most people cannot do. So huge credit to her and a testament to her and MTJ for all that they do.
Yep, I'll agree, Kobe. I'll agree.
They do, and I mean everything they endure. I see a couple of other comments. Zach, I guess this is his championship for Bowman, Larson, Truex, Busch, and then he clarifies Kyle Busch. So people already thinking who's going to be in the championship for. It's such a long season though. We got 35 more races, only one more off weekend in June, so we still got a lot of time for a lot to happen before we get to the playoffs. Those are some early favorites. Some of the big favorites for today, though, just having bad luck. The big one that impacted Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Motorsports, they came in early with Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin were involved, William Byron, Alex Bowman taken out. That's, of course, the big crash where we saw Harrison Burton take off. Hamlin, he started 30th. He climbed up to the top 10, but we never saw him threatening for the lead. Now, of course, this could be part of his strategy where he's not the kind of driver that just muscles his way to the front unless it's the very end. But still, it just seemed like when it came to him and the other two, he was sort of that third, maybe fourth best. Josh, we're starting with you. Could we see Hamlin have a slow start? And especially we got to consider last year, he didn't win a race until we got into the playoffs.
Yeah, I didn't follow NASCAR as closely last year, but I was watching the races and I was on the Grid Network shows with you all as well. And I remember you saying how bad Hamlin was doing as well. And I think today as well, he kind of got cut short. He was very unlucky to be involved in the big one on the back straightaway as well. And it just stopped him dead in the tracks in terms of the fact that he was actually making very good progress. And we didn't get to see his full potential today. The car isn't quick in qualifying, but it's quick in race trim. That's great to see. I think we could see him win after a couple of races, just getting used to the new Gen car. I nearly said Gen 3. That's Formula E, but it's Gen 7 for NASCAR. So I think it'll take him a while, but he'll get up there. We're not going to see him as bad as he was last year. I don't think he could be as bad as he was last year with not winning until they got to the playoffs.
Well, Josh, I don't necessarily think Denny Hamlin was that bad last year. He just couldn't seal the deal to get into victory lane like we've seen in years past with Denny Hamlin, and certainly 2022 not off to a good start yet. No, remember the last month the test at Daytona had a blown motor, and then Denny Hamlin comes to the Busch Clash and has a mechanical issue during the main feature, and now disappointing finish in the Daytona 500. And I think he even said on Twitter that he's just ready to get to California, considering how this year started. And and I think that next week in Fontana can certainly be a reset for him, and he'll be on his way. I think Denny Hamlin will be a championship contender once again.
I do think he's going to be a championship contender. The consistency is where he seems to really excel at. I believe he can still get that done. He just needs to have some good luck going. What happened to Busch Clash? What happened today? Yes, Fontana, you have a lot more control compared to you do at Daytona. I think that's where the difference is going to be. And of course, we're all adjusting to this new car. And this is the first time for the new car debut with 40 full field out there. And overall, it seemed to go smoothly. A couple things we saw, especially during the second big crash, was mainly if you get the flat tires. Joey Logano, he had multiple flat tires, had a hard time getting off the grass, even on pit road get going. Alex Bowman, after his crash in the first wreck, had a hard time going with those flat tires. And just seeing with that bigger rim and a lot less rubber, it was causing problems overall. But overall, starting with you, Josh, how impressed were you with the brand new car?
Extremely impressed. I love the new look at them. I think the Fords are the most beautiful looking out of the pack as well, with the Chevys and Toyotas. I think it would go Ford, Chevy, Toyota, personally, in my view of how they look. But I think as well, we've seen a great race today. It was the fastest Daytona 500 in 5 years. That's an interesting one. Only one red flag, 7 cautions, not bad. Seth says, shout out to David Reagan as well, a true hard gun on the super speedways. Absolutely. Seth was on the call, I think, with us for the last half of the race on USON. But honestly, the one issue I've got with the cars was the fact that, yes, we had that accident that caused the third caution where we had a rollover. Is that a system of the new cars, or is it the super speedway? We'll find out as we see more crashes throughout the year. And the one thing as well, the tires. That was what the big worry. We had 3 cautions today where tires were the issue. And of course, seeing them fly off into the path of race cars is never, ever a good sight. And I'm just thankful it happened at a part of the circuit where there was no spectators. The last thing we want is them going over the safety barriers and the catch fencing and getting into the crowd. So they've got to nail down the tires. They've got to maybe slow the pit stops down and just make sure everyone has the time. It's turning a bit into Formula One now, isn't it? Where we went from having 9-second stops and now the tires are being done in 2 seconds and we're waiting for the fuel. Just slow it down, make sure all the tires are connected, and then the fuel can go. It's practically the same stop, but the tires have increased. It's weird. But all in all, I'd rate the new cars a 7 out of 10. They're very, very good and a very, very good race. And pack racing's back, and it's looking great again.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Josh. I was impressed with how the gen set, how this new car ran today. It was, to me, it was a really good Daytona 500 overall. It was just awesome to see the grandstands packed with fans again after last year because of COVID. We saw camper in the infield. We saw fans packed. We saw fans packed at Daytona International Speedway. Overall, I was really impressed with this car. I'll also give it a 7 out of 10. It was really weird to see, like you mentioned, Josh, tires flying off the cars, but I know that's something NASCAR can make an adjustment to, hopefully, before the end of the season.
We've got a question. I think I've just been put in as well. Do you want me to answer? Because I've got the answer up. I did a quick search because I didn't know myself. It's from Amber, and she's asked, does the NASCARs have wheel tethers like Formula One? Answer, yes, they do, which I found interesting. I don't know how quick, if you might want to come up to the big camera for a second, but there is the wheel tether. There you go. That is what a wheel tether looks like on a NASCAR. No idea where it comes from. Oh, wait, obviously it isn't
I think that actually says modified.
Modified wheel tether. You are correct.
Well, the modifieds are open wheel cars, so that would make sense. I don't know if we can get a definitive answer on the stock cars. I was actually thinking probably not because of how many times we've seen wheels come off here.
So.
No, it was. They did used to have them, but they were abandoned in 2004. So they did have them, and they got abandoned in 2004. So there you go. There's your answer. They did have wheel tethers, but they were abandoned in 2004. So there's your answer. That's news to me. Why abandon a safety feature? I think that might be coming back after what we saw you seeing here today.
It could be a topic where you might want to see it come back, because now, with what we saw, it'll be interesting. I think we're going to see what happened in Auto Club and some of the other races. Maybe this is something a bigger concern, but it seems like, especially, I guess the theory would be, you got the fenders around the tire, so the chances compared to an F1 car are pretty slim. But it's definitely interesting to see what all happens with that. Now, one of the big things, of course, this year, new season, we're definitely doing an effort to follow all the races from around the world. So one of the big things, of course, we're following some of the driver ambassadors from Racing Pride. Don't have the results yet from the Grid Fest that's going on at Circus of America that is not affiliated with us, but these are some of the drivers from the Racing Pride driver ambassadors, LGBTQA. And then, of course, some of the African-American racers. We mentioned Antoine Brown. He qualified sixth. He was eliminated in the second round at Pomona today. Then, of course, a lot of the female racers, including Michaela Alkalinski, who won the Extreme E Desert X Prix. And, of course, Thursday will be on the air with the women in Motorsports, myself and Daniel hosting that program. And overall, we're starting to get to that point. Daytona 500 for 2022 is now in the books. One red flag, but that was for the crash in which Kyle Larson was involved. We didn't have like that big one with like 10 plus cars, but more 3 ones where you saw 8, 7, I believe 6 cars in that one with Kyle Larson. Competition was good side by side overall. Yes, we did see the single line up on the high side for a brief bit, but once the teammates got broken up and you had some Chevys in there with Ford, it got dicey. Joshua, I'm starting with you, especially since this is your first time covering the Daytona 500. Where will you rank this year's Daytona 500 with past Daytona 500?
In terms of ones I've watched, I'd put it inside the top 3. I think it was that good of a race. I mean, I have gone back and watched all the other ones that we've had over previous years. I mean, stick a motor race on and it's just fantastic to watch it no matter how long it is. It's definitely inside the top 3 for me. But in terms of races I've commentated on for big events like Monaco, Indy 500, Le Mans, this goes straight in at number 3 alongside the 100th running of the Indy 500 as my top one, with Alexander Rossi winning. The second one was at Monaco in 2009 with Jenson Button winning. And the one that we've just had today goes in right at number 3 as my all-time favorite race of calling these big races. That was just fantastic. The atmosphere was like nothing I've ever seen before. It was the quickest, as I said, for 5 years. It was nice and smooth and went in. And Zachary says as well, 16 or more winners in the first 26 races. My goodness me. That is a big shout. But definitely for me, for Daytona 500s, it's inside the top 5. And for the personal ones, it's inside the top 3. So big thumbs up. I'm very, very happy.
I can say, on a scale of 1 to 10, I rate this year's Daytona 500 a 10. Like I mentioned earlier, the grandstands packed with fans. The campers were in the infield. Fans from all across the... It was nice to see the Daytona 500 sold out with fans. You know, last year was a COVID year. So, you know, the atmosphere was just incredible. it was awesome to me, and I haven't felt this more ready for a Daytona 500 in a long, long time. It was awesome, incredible. We saw, take away from what we saw with Harrison Burton, flipping. It was just awesome race to watch. And I'll say it's in my top 5 of Daytona 500s I watched for a long, long time. I mean, I can go back to the 80s and 90s, but this year's Daytona 500 to me is in my top 5.
I see Seth is saying he goes so far as to say 10 out of 10. Didn't hurt that my top 2 favorites finished 1-2. Well, anytime that happens, I think you're certainly going to enjoy a little bit more than if that weren't to happen. And Zach saying it was good to me. His top 5, 2007, 16, 10, 14, 08, and then 22. Some good picks in there. Let me just say, I'm not excited to talk about what I'm about to talk about because I know there are a lot of great people at this organization that are capable of doing great things. The race was very good. I have to say, I was impressed. I thought it would be much more of the single file train. We saw that a little bit at times, but credit to the drivers for putting on a good show and not being afraid of the parts shortage of the next gen and not being afraid to go 2 and 3 wide. I thought, aside from the couple accidents we saw, very good race. The Fox Sports coverage was not great, and there's really no way around it. It was all over social media. We can get into production issues. We can get into problems with the camera work, the fact that we didn't know Alex Bowman and Ross Chastain were even in the first wreck until 30 seconds after it happened. The fact that Clint Boyer was up in the booth saying, I think one of these cars went upside down, and it took until we saw the replay to find that Harrison Burton had actually flipped. The constant onboard cameras. I think, Josh, you were even saying it made it kind of hard for you to comment.
Yeah, it was.
And then you can go back to Thursday night in the dual races, focusing entirely on the finish and missing Kaz Gralla getting the money team into the Daytona 500. That's, I think, the most important part of the dual races is setting the field and who's going to be in the race, who isn't. Fox completely missed that because they were focused on the race for the win, which is really just for the second row starting spot. And that doesn't even get into the commercials. There were so many commercials. I think some people were even joking that the race was interrupting the commercials rather than the commercials interrupting the race. And this is the only sport that I can think of off the top of my head that at least has this sizable of a following where we go to commercials during the action. And I remember watching the Indy 500 in 2007, ESPN on ABC was doing side-by-side then. So we've had this for at least 15 years now. We have the ability in the United States, all credit to Mother's Polish and a couple of other companies that have hopped on board. ESPN is now simulcasting a commercial-free Sky Sports feed. And I've got to say, I wonder if that commercial-free broadcasting has maybe assisted the rise that we're seeing Formula One experience in the United States right now. And then you come over to NASCAR, and we even joke about it with NBC all the time, nothing but commercials. I don't know if we can come up with an acronym for Fox there, but I think both networks need to seriously take a look and invest. I know we have TV contracts coming up here in a couple of years, new ones maybe entering the arena for broadcasting rights. There needs to be some sort of solution here. I don't know if it's going side by side under green and trying to reserve the full screen commercials. If you have to take any full screen commercials, I would maybe go talking to a couple sponsors, see if you can get them to prevent exclusive commercial free coverage and pay for the ads that way. Even soccer, a sport where the clock doesn't stop, you have banners and advertising that's changing all around the stadium, signs and adverts going up there so that you don't have to take the commercial breaks. You only take them at halftime and when the clock's not running. I don't know if NASCAR or IndyCar could look at something like that. But all in all, I hate talking about it this way because I know there's a lot of great people at Fox Sports, but something needs to be done. Something has to change because we've seen this decline year after year after year. Unfortunately, I think it hit a new low today.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of issues with today's broadcast. And like you were saying, Ben, it would be really nice if NASCAR was able to talk with some sponsors and do something similar to what we do at Formula One here in the state, where Mother's Polish pays for all the commercial slots, and we get to see commercial-free Formula One coverage. And also, as you mentioned, the TV contract coming up. NASCAR is gonna have to make some decisions there. Maybe and since some streaming is become really popular all over the world, maybe NASCAR has a stream option, like commercial-free broadcast for us in the States, so you don't have to deal with the commercials. So maybe that could be an option. There are so many possibilities. But to get back to the question about where I rank this year's Daytona 500, I can't really give a definitive answer because I want to give this time to really think about it. But overall, if I had to pick today, certainly in the top 5, but nothing beats 07. Totally agree with Zach. 07 was definitely my top Daytona 500. That was also the first NASCAR race I ever watched as a little kid, and that was quite an introduction to NASCAR. But this year's Daytona 500, really, really good. Thought it was an enjoyable event.
I thought it was an enjoyable event as well. You didn't had rain delays, but like we've had lately. It seems like for a while we just had a streak where it was like rain delayed, just postponed, weirdness with potholes, cones, the jet dryer. To have this Daytona 500 just go, yes, we had a red flag, but that was to clean up the track after the Kyle Larson crash and not have too many laps under yellow. Yes, we still went into overtime because of Ricky Stenhouse wreck. But overall, I felt like this race, it had a good flow throughout the race. We saw some good competition. Sort of reminded me a little bit of like, I believe it was 97, 98, 99, where we were having some really intense Daytona 500s. Of course, 98, we all remember that's when Dale Earnhardt win. 99, that's where we saw then when there was no yellow line rule, cars going down towards the bottom like Jeff Gordon and Rusty Wallace and lap car they were approaching. Really good, intense racing. Like any race, there's going to be incidents. It just so happens with super speedways, when those incidents occur, you got a car probably airborne, and you got a handful of cars involved. We didn't have what I thought was a downer from last year was you had 10 plus cars all out on the 14th lap of the race, which I felt really just dictate the rest of that race. This year, you still had contenders. You still had a lot of strategy going on, especially with the manufacturers. And overall, I don't know where I will rank it, but I think it will be up there probably I would say within the top 10 for sure.
Hashtag bring back Alan Bestwick. That'd make a lot of people happy,
He's doing UConn women's basketball now, though, so he wouldn't be available, I think, for the early part of the season.
I know. Yeah, maybe
I don't think he really wants to come back.
Yeah. He got him an SRX, though, so there's that at least.
Yeah, I think he wants Indy, didn't he?
Yeah, and his partner in SRX, Danica Patrick, will join the Fox crew at Las Vegas and Phoenix. So,
all right, guys, I'll take it. It's all right. I'll take one for the team. I'll get on a plane to America. I'll take over. I mean, I've done one now.
All right, Josh. But now it's time for our Grid One Shining Moment from the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. And I'll start with you, Ben. What's your Grid One Shining Moment from this really incredible Daytona 500?
Well, I do want to just come back real quick and say I do want to give Mike Joy some credit because he is a legend of our sport. And I think maybe had some moments here or there today, but you can nitpick, but he does still do a solid job. So despite my criticism of Fox, I do still like Mike Joy in the booth. And I think he is kind of carrying the network, if we're being honest right now, because he is a legend and deserves that recognition there. Wow, one shining moment. There's a lot to pick from here, and I guess I had the benefit of going first, so forgive me for taking the easy way out, but it's hard to look past Austin Cindric, the guy who won the Daytona 500 today. So I'm going to give my one shining moment to him. I think nobody picked him and pick a winner, which looking back is kind of surprising because we know that he's looked strong with Penske in the past, not just in the Xfinity Series, but the limited cup experience he got last year. Got to say, all credit to him where it's due. Fantastic win for him today, and maybe sets the tone for an impressive rookie season that we could see from that two team going forward. So congratulations again to Austin Cindric. I'll make him my one shining moment for the Daytona 500 weekend.
And my one shining moment, same as you, Ben, Austin Cindric. I can't think of anything else for my one shining moment. And Austin Cindric make us all look really silly that nobody picked him for pick a winner. My main reason for not picking him pick a winner is because he has limited Cup starts. He's inexperienced on super speedways at this point in his career. In this Cup car at Daytona, so that's why I did not pick him. But maybe next time we have a super speedway race, might have to consider that because he drove like a veteran out there today, and actually had to look to see if the name Austin Cindric was up there because you would think he's a veteran like Brad Keselowski who's been doing this for years, and I'm sure it was really hard for Brad Keselowski drive for Team Penske all these years only to watch the car that you left at the end of last season win the Great American Race after you've tried to win this race so many times and come close last year. So that's definitely a tough pill to swallow for Brad Keselowski. But all in all, Austin Cindric, I did not see this coming at all, and kudos to him. And as I said earlier tonight, it hit the path he took to here. Remember when he started off driving for, ironically, Brad Keselowski in the Truck Series? He had a few up and down moments there. Graduated to the NASCAR Xfinity Series probably a year too soon. He even admitted he probably needed a second year in trucks, but Brad Keselowski racing that shut down and there was nowhere to go, so he moved it to Xfinity Series, swapping back and forth between Team Penske and the Race Racing 60 car that a lot of people think was cursed. And Austin had a really rough debut season in the Xfinity Series, and he slowly progressed into a solid all-around stock car racer. So it just goes to show, as long as you're patient and keep working at improving your craft, you can certainly become a fantastic race car driver. And Austin Cindric has certainly done that. That's why he's my great one shining moment this week.
I'm so glad that you two haven't picked what I'm going to say. And I'm sorry to Joe and Adam if you're going to say anything similar. My one shining moment is actually quite different. And it's a man that I've seen today driving and is very much so the luckiest driver on the planet. It's the number 18 on the ball with Kyle Busch as well, because he got involved in the first big wreck and the final big wreck and still managed to finish 6th with a car that was, duct taped together at the front. And he was challenging for the lead. He was right up there on the last lap. Beautiful race. It didn't work out for him again. He's missed out on winning the 500 yet again, but still, that is a tremendous fight back and a brilliant race as well. And Seth says his one shining moment, besides the Cindric, the Cindric for minority owners in the race. There you go. Fantastic.
When it comes for me, my one shiny moment, I have to give that to Chase Briscoe, the 14 car. Last year, rookie season, wasn't that great. I mean, rookies we know usually have a hard time adjusting the Cup Series, but we have gotten accustomed to seeing some rookies go out there and at least win a race. I feel like what happened at the road course in Indianapolis, where he had that stop and go penalty, the mess with Denny Hamlin. I think a lot of people were sort of really starting to get critical of Chase Briscoe, and we know he's a talented driver. Today, that team was 2 laps down at one point, I believe. If not for sure, at least 1 lap down. And they climbed their way to the front. While other teams could have easily just, okay, we're sorting this mess, let's try to just salvage what we can. They kept digging. At one point, I thought, okay, they're not going to go anywhere. But they were up there towards the end, and he was looking good towards the end, racing smart. I got to give him that one shiny moment. I believe with what he showed today, he could potentially be a leader for that 14 car and potentially Stewart-Haas Racing if they try to rebound. Coming in the chat room, is Kyle Larson okay? Yes, Kyle Larson was okay. He did a post-race interview after that crash, one of the hard hits. Thankfully, we know all the drivers have been okay, cleared from the medical center. But Chase Briscoe, he was my one shiny moment.
I'm last. Well, I'm going to give my grid one shining moment to Bubba Wallace. He came this close to winning his second career NASCAR Cup Series win after what we saw last year at Talladega. He drove a very smart race all day long. And, I think we can say when it comes to super speedway racing at Daytona and Talladega, Bubba Wallace is a contender at these tracks. We saw what he did last year at Talladega. We saw what he did at Daytona today. When it comes to these two restricted play tracks, yeah, I know we have Atlanta now as a restricted play track, but don't be surprised if we see Bubba Wallace winning at Daytona or Talladega this year. And really cool to see for minority owners as well. And Jusan Hamilton, the first Black man to be a race director for the Daytona 500. Pretty remarkable. So I'm saying Bubba Wallace is my Grid 1 shining moment.
At least he did the correct thing and stopped the race and not end it under yellow or restart it with one to go. He did better than Michael Masi. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. I'll agree to that, my friend.
And on that note, unfortunately, we're out of time for tonight. And an update from Tech, post-race Tech, it's still going on right now. It still may take a little while for them to figure things out, but unless something really crazy happens, I expect Austin Cindric to pass Tech, and he will be the official winner of the Daytona 500. But if something crazy happens, we'll report on it here at Grid Network. And I want to remind everybody to subscribe to Grid Network here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And we encourage you to take 5 minutes after our show and consider joining our Patreon, invest in Grid Network to keep us on the air. Yeah, and a big thank you to our Patreon monthly investors, Colin, Mark, Michelle, and Robin once again. Also, you can you can click the link below in the video description to buy me a coffee, our one-time donation option. You can buy a coffee for your favorite on-air talent. Big thank you to Ed, Amber, and Zach for buying a Grid Network coffee. Really appreciate that. And any amount will help us continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Visit public.com, the stock market social media home. The referral code in the link below gives $5 to invest immediately. And public.com will allow you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to invest in the stock market. And looking at this week's schedule, tomorrow night, catch Ben Snyder and Brandon Crossland on Grid Live Encore discussing the top storylines from the weekend in ARCA, Trucks, and Xfinity at Daytona. Then Wednesday night, another edition of Grid Tonight. Adam and I will take a look at the FA's findings from Abu Dhabi and Michael Andretti's desire to start up a Formula One team for Joe Samdiego, Joshua Birch, Ben Snyder, and Adam Lemmeries. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful week.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.